we know that with what has happened with the San Francisco 49ers in 2023 and in 2022, partially in 2021, that offensive line is a massive need for this football team. John Lynch, Kyle Shanahan, this front office, scouting department, coaching staff, they need to get offensive line right going into 2024. So coming up on today's 49ers report, some Niners offensive line draft targets who San Francisco could pick at number 31 in April's 2024 NFL draft. Speaking of the draft, next week is the NFL Scouting Combine. I will be there providing you with the best Niners coverage. John Lynch most likely going to speak with the media if Kyle Shanahan is there. Hasn't gone to the Combine in the last couple of years. We'll catch up with him as well. We'll also do some interviews with some other content creators. Going to link up with the Pro Football Focus guys to talk draft, targets, as well as free agency, other content creators potentially. And then all of these draft prospects, they're going to have a lot of media availability, and they're going to let us know if they've met with the 49ers. So all of that to come on the Niners Report. We'll be there. This sharp-looking fella will be on camera from Radio Row in Indianapolis from the NFL Scouting Combine. You don't want to miss it. Make sure you subscribe to the channel so that you can stay in the know. With this Niners offensive line, why does San Francisco need to address it? Well, in the 2023 season, the Niners finished 20th among 32 teams in pass block win rate, 55.6%. Not good. Right side was in shambles up until John Feliciano fortified right guard a little bit, and then Colton McKivitz wasn't good all year. And Brock Purdy in the Super Bowl against Kansas City was running for his life. He was under siege all throughout the night. 11 pressures the Chiefs were able to generate on Purdy. 9 of them were unblocked. You want to put your young quarterback in a position to succeed? You're not helping him out when free runners are in his mug for 4 quarters. And the offensive line, it's caused issues over the last couple of years for the Niners, and that's why I'd love to see this team bulk up center, right guard, right tackle, potentially, because Trent Williams has said, and he told me specifically, not retiring, and I still have some good football left. Aaron Banks is a really good player at left guard, one of the only good offensive linemen that this current regime has drafted. Now it's really time to build up in the trenches, which then just helps your offense out because you're going to run it a lot under Kyle Shanahan, and you want to be able to keep Brock Purdy upright. So with that, let's take a look at some draft targets for the Niners along the offensive line who could be available at number 31 overall. Graham Barton is an excellent interior offensive lineman for Duke. He did play right tackle for Duke this past year under Mike Elko, who ended up leaving Duke, but they had a really good year. And Barton played left tackle, right tackle throughout his career with the Blue Devils. Because he has shorter arms, he's projected to be an interior offensive lineman at the NFL level. The Niners are really big when they scout players on arm length. And because of that, that's probably why Barton would be an interior offensive lineman for this team. He could play center. He could play guard. Very good size at 6'5", 314. He's an explosive drive blocker. Really good bend for his size. That's what you need to play tackle in this league. He can really climb to the second level, which is, of course, important in Kyle Shanahan's outside zone scheme. And what I like about him is just the consistency and the effort that he brings to the field every single play. If that doesn't sound like a Kyle Shanahan player, I don't know who does. Coming in at number 2 is Jordan Morgan out of Arizona. This is a prototypical offensive tackle who has the height, the weight, and the arm length to play tackle at the NFL level. And I like his experience to play right tackle and be a right tackle for the San Francisco 49ers. Now, some scouts think that he does have shorter arms. I'm not as much concerned about his shorter arms as compared to Barton. But what's good about Morgan is the positional versatility, tackle and guard versatility. So early in his career, he could slide to the interior. He could play guard. And then as he becomes more seasoned, he could pop out the tackle. A little bit lighter, 6'4", 312, but the quick feet to make up for that lack of size, quote unquote. He has range, he has aggression, and a solid kick slide to really get him started right after the ball is snapped. That's what we see from guys like Trent Williams and Lane Johnson, who are two of the best tackles in the game. So with that, this is today's poll question and our pinned comment for today's video. What position do the Niners need to target at number 31 overall? Let me know down below right now. Today's 49ers Report is sponsored by PrizePicks. PrizePicks is the largest independently run daily fantasy sports app in North America, and you can get a $100 deposit match at prizepicks.com/CLNS. Daily fantasy sports made easy. You pick 2 or more players. You choose more or less on the projected stats. And football season is in the rear view. NBA coming out of the All-Star break, but I'm looking ahead to baseball season. Baseball is actually my first love before I absolutely fell in love with the game of football. Austin Riley, more than 35.5 home runs. I'm going to go more there. Freddie Freeman, more than 26.5 home runs and 176.5 hits. I like the more on those selections. Ronald Acuna, more than 37.5 home runs. And then Aaron Nola, more than 195.5 strikeouts. You can combine your picks with different sports, but either way, get in on the action with PrizePicks. $100 deposit match, prizepicks.com/CLNS, and use the code CLNS. Amari Mims, offensive tackle out of Georgia. This is a fascinating prospect for a multitude of reasons. He has 8 career starts with the Georgia Bulldogs, who over the last few years have been arguably the best college program. They won back-to-back national championships in 2022 and in 2021. And in the college football playoff against Ohio State, very good edge rushers on that Buckeyes team, Mims balled out. But the lack of experience is a little bit of an issue. 8 career starts is not a lot to really gauge how good he could be or to try to pinpoint the flaws that he has. But when you have good feet and when you move in a nimble way at 6'7", 330 pounds, a lot of teams are going to be willing to take a chance on you. And what the Niners like, which is what I talked about a little bit earlier with a couple of these prospects, they love arm length because you can engage with those defensive linemen and just keep them away from you. And then if they get past you, you have that arm length to kind of push them to the side to give a quarterback like Brock Purdy a clean pocket. And Mims has the arm length at 6'7", 330. But the issue here with the Niners might be this. If he's not ready to play, and if he's too raw, does a win-now team take a shot on him in the 20s or at 31 overall? Testing is going to be important at the scouting combine in Indianapolis next week, and so too are the interviews, because why didn't he play a lot with the Georgia Bulldogs? He's going to get pressed on that by front offices. Tyler Guyton is a player who doesn't have experience, concerns, or issues. He played a lot with the Oklahoma Sooners and was a very productive player. What's good about him as a Niners draft target is that unlike some of these other players who may have played left tackle or played on the interior, Tyler Guyton was a full-time right tackle with Oklahoma, a college program that's done a great job of developing offensive linemen for the next level. You think of Creed Humphrey with the Kansas City Chiefs, great center. You think about Lane Johnson, potential future Hall of Famer with the Eagles. They've done a great job of just developing dogs in the trenches. And for Guyton, he is also a swift mover and has a lot of size at 6'7", 320. Very strong anchor, meaning he has a very strong lower half. And for some of these defensive ends like Nick Bosa, Myles Garrett, TJ Watt, who dominated Colton McKivitz in week 1, when they get that leverage and when they have that bend and flexibility to get so low, they can get underneath these quote-unquote stiffer offensive tackles. Guyton, though, is athletic enough, nimble enough, and has that strong anchor where he's not moved off of his spot all that often. Still a little bit raw as far as his technique goes, but he has all of the makings, all of the skills to be a future Pro Bowler in this league. And then lastly, Troy Fautanu out of Washington. This is another player who in college played a little bit of tackle, and played a little bit of guard. When NFL draft evaluators try to figure out what he's going to play at the next level, they're going to look at his scouting profile, hopefully here on the Niners Report, and look at this. That this guy is twitchy and nasty at 6'4", 319. Violent hands with a lot of power. He could play right tackle. I think he's better suited as a guy who's going to be an all-pro guard in this league. Now, I spoke with him when I was in Houston for the College Football Playoff National Championship, and I asked him, because the Niners need offensive line help, if that's an offensive system that he's kept an eye on, if he's kept tabs on it. He said, yeah, that's a system I would love to play in. And I also asked him, a lot of people think that you're more so going to be a guard or tackle. He said, whatever position that an NFL team wants me to play, I'm going to play it, and I'm going to succeed. But with all of these traits here, when I watch him, when I scout him, I think that he's ready for NFL snaps right now, and that fits the timeline for the San Francisco 49ers being a Super Bowl contender. And even though they lost against the Kansas City Chiefs, they're the Super Bowl favorites going into 2024. Do you want more Niners draft content? The good news is we're going to the Scouting Combine next week. So we're going to do some NFL draft content. But show me that you want more stuff like this by typing me, but also hitting that thumbs up icon and liking the video.